Hello everyone, and welcome to How to Answer the Questions in GCSE Sociology J696. Remember, our exam board is OCR. How exciting. So, the first unit is Sociology Basics. Now, if you're in Year 11, you would have already done this, unless there's some people are resitting. But this is mainly aimed at those people, those current Year 10s who are going to be doing it at the end of Year 11. There are 3 sections. And it's a minute per mark. It's an hour-long exam, so 60 minutes, 60 marks. True or false questions are the first ones, and they're based on the sources. Very, very easy. Just basically testing, can you read? And so there's no excuse not to get 4 out of 4 in that first. The second type of questions are identify and explain, and it's always 2 reasons. And these are pretty much always 4 marks. As you can see, this one's 4 marks. And this what the bottom is as well. The ones in the middle are just literally identify. It could be 1-word answers. You do not need to spend a lot of time on those. If you look carefully, there are 2 types of identify and explain 2 reasons. There is the might not be accurate, so the accuracy type question. And then there's the usefulness type question, okay? Now, the accurate one is talking about validity of experiments, so whether what they've collected is right or wrong, okay, whether they've actually done it well, and they've been good sociologists. The second one is talking about representative, so does it represent a large group, okay? And so you have to consider is it evidence and useful for all behaviour, okay? In this example, it's in a classroom. It could be anything, okay? You just have to say, basically the answer is always, it's not going to represent all behaviour, but you have to say why it's not representing all behaviour. And the other type of question is a describe question. Okay, so describe 2 advantages and 2 disadvantages. This is testing, have you revised? This is basic stuff. It's normally about the research methods, so interviews, questionnaires and observations. Sometimes it might be a content analysis as well, so be aware, do revise that one. This is the research methods question. So this is the first essay that we'll come across in Unit 1. And it's a 12 marker. Again, mark a minute, so this is 12 minutes worth of your work. Now, I've been optimistic here and only going to tell you about level 3. So that's 9 to 12 marks. And this is what you need to do. First of all, you need to have a good knowledge. Okay, you need to revise the keywords in the green booklet. You also then, secondly, have to justify it in relation to the investigation. So you have to read the question carefully. Okay. Now, in terms of methods and evidence, for an 11 to 12 mark answer, you have to give primary and secondary evidence. You need to consider sampling and the method. And obviously you've got to use those keywords that you've revised from the green booklet. You have to refer to the investigation. With this research methods question, you could go away and write a general essay talking about pros and cons of using interviews, questionnaires and observations. But to get those in this level 3, this top band, you must apply it to the investigation. Explain and justify. As I said, you must have talked about quantitative and qualitative data. Okay, this is really important. Also, I've given some keywords that you need to think about during this research methods question: bias, representativeness, and validity. You need to explain 2 relevant methods and a piece of evidence, so 2 primary methods and 1 secondary evidence, okay? And you must relate this again to the question. Obviously, spelling, punctuation, grammar are taken into account, but you can still get 12 out of 12 even if there are a few errors in spelling, punctuation and grammar, so don't worry too much. Section B is really, really easy. It's the keywords and concept mix and match. This is for 4 marks, and hopefully you will have revised, again, green booklet, and you will be able to run through this very, very quickly, and this is where you can gain some time. In the final section of Sociology Basics is socialisation. You'll have a source with comprehension questions, just like you did at the very beginning in Section A. And you will have 2 identify and explains and 2 identify and describes. There's 2 examples of those types of questions underneath there. And this is the final essay, the final bit of work you'll be doing in Unit 1 exam. Okay, so this is the for and against essay, and you should be used to this because in Unit 2 we do them, but it's worth 24 marks. So again, I've been optimistic and only given the level 3 and level 4 descriptors, so this is what everyone should be aiming for. As you probably know from when I mark your essays, there are 3 assessment objectives. 1, 2 and 3. Okay, so AO1 is your keywords, AO2 is examples, your evidence, and AO3 is your analysis and evaluation. So it's almost in a kind of point, evidence, explanation format. I'm going to talk about level 4. You've got to have a wide-ranging knowledge, so you need to have revised and know a huge amount about what they're asking you. It's a very simple structure, but you need to know those keywords. You need to focus fully on the question asked. Okay, don't, just because you know a very impressive keyword, don't crowbar it in just because you know it and you want to show off. It's got to be related to the question. And you've got to give some kind of conclusion to get full marks. Without a conclusion, you are limiting yourself. Okay, and I should imagine you'd only get about 10 out of 12. Okay, there's 2 extra marks to get in the form of a conclusion. This is Unit 2. This is worth 50% of your overall grade. The first unit, Unit 1, was only worth 25%. Now, everyone has studied crime and deviance, mass media and youth. However, when it comes to the exams, not everyone answers those particulars. So, my first top tip for you: answer the sections that you've been taught. Don't answer the other sections. Now, the other sections might look quite appealing. However, you could very easily not have the sociological evidence you need in order to get to score well in those sections. Some people, and there's always 2 people on average on each class during the mock exams, will make this mistake. Please don't let it be you. Now, the exam structure is the same for each of the 3 sections, and so it's quite straightforward and not as complicated as Unit 1 in that way. There will be a source at the beginning with some comprehension questions. These are 1 and 2 mark questions, and they are very straightforward and based on you just reading carefully the sources. Plus, there's a mix and match of keywords. Slightly different mix and match from Unit 1. This time you actually have to write the concept next to the definition, as shown in the example here. So, it says write out the name or concept from the list above, which best matches each of the statements below. There are more concepts than statements, so there are 5 concepts, but only 4 statements. Okay, so all you need to do is just write your answer. Fine. Now, this is identify and explain. It's an 8-mark question, and you'll be expected to do the same identify and explain style question for each of the 3 sections. Now, I've put in here level 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so concentrating on level 4 again, you'll need to have 2 correct ideas well explained using more than 4 keywords correctly. Okay, again, it goes back to your keywords. So identification, just identifying what they're asking, you can get 4 marks, but it's the explanation part is where you make the difference between 4 and 8 marks. Okay, you've got to, ideas are linked together, so you've got to link those ideas together. Okay, so normally identify and explain 2 something. I've never come across identify and explain 3. Okay, so it's always identify and explain 2 things. Hopefully, try and link them together as well. Okay, so this is the big one. This is the one hopefully you spent most of your time in lesson and outside of lesson thinking about. It's the 24-mark essay at the end of each section in Unit 2. So you'd be expected to do 3 of these within the exam. Now, the exam's an hour and a half. However, there are 120 marks. So those of you who are good at maths will know that it's less than a mark a minute. Now, I would advise on the 24 markers spending 18 minutes. The best revision you can do is to do these timed essays. Now, you should have a sheet that tells you how to get full marks in 24 markers, but here is the mark scheme. Again, just as we said before, we've got the 3 AOs, assessment objectives. The first one's to do with keywords, so your point. The second one's to do with evidence, and the last one's to do with your explanation. Okay, so it's based on that PE format that we've been using. Now, the difference between level 3 and 4, and you see I've underlined it already, is in level 3 you have a small amount of knowledge. In level 4 you have a wide-ranging and accurate sociological evidence, so knowledge. Okay, so again, that based on keywords, learning those keywords. Also, to get to level 4, I would recommend learning some theories in sociology. It's probably about 2 per topic. Again, to gain 4 marks, you need to have some form of a conclusion. Okay, please don't limit yourself, even if it's a sentence, even if you're running out of time, do write a conclusion. Something along the lines of overall will be a trigger word for the examiner, and they know that you are now concluding. And this is a third, this is worth 25%. This is the third and quite possibly final exam you're doing in sociology, and that's the case study. It's called Applying Sociological Research Technique. Basically testing how you can use the knowledge you gained in sociology basics. You've got to refer to the investigation as often as possible. And again, they'll have identify and explain or identify and describe questions. And we go back to the usual format, 60 marks, and it's 60 minutes, so it's a minute a mark. Okay, this is the one essay that you will have in Unit 3. It's a 12 marker and it's at the end of the paper. So you have a first section is about investigation 1, second section about investigation 2, and this third one will be an essay. Now, the essay might be focused on one or the other of the investigations, or like the one below, it could be both. Sorry, not like the one below, because this one's an either one. So either investigation 1 or 2. Please make sure you read this bit in bold, and make sure you only use investigation 1 or 2. Some of them, as I said, could ask you to use both, in which case it's important you read that bit in bold. Now, usefully, they have given you 3 bullet points, and these can act as your paragraph focus. Okay. Now, this example is validity, so how accurate was the primary and secondary evidence. Again, it's got a focus, so please make sure you realise that is the focus. And so, almost at the end of every paragraph, you should say, it is or is not useful for studying family types in the UK because. Okay, and that will keep it tailored to the question. And then you are done. Good luck!